joining in, Managing Partner, Pacific Paradigm Advisors. Thank you so much for taking time out, Punita. Given the fact that not too long ago the markets hit those new all-time highs, but it seems that there was that lack of enthusiasm in the markets, and some would attribute it to the fact that there has been a little bit of caution when it comes to the valuations as well as the global concerns on the macro front. What do you think you would attribute it to?
I think valuations for sure, and also I think India has been a big beneficiary of China's closing down. But as China looks to reopen, and there are some noises that they will try to open up slowly, I think other emerging markets which have lagged India could start seeing some flows moving out into some of those lower valued markets. So I think the same reasons that helped India outperform could be the same reasons when the rest of the economies start opening up, that India might slightly underperform some of the other emerging markets, particularly if China does really open up. However, I think right now, for the next 3 to 6 months, growth in India is still looking quite good compared to some of the other economies. So at the moment, I think while valuations are high, nobody's really rushing out the door.
Okay, that's the view coming in on the overall market, but just wanted to understand your sense as well as to how you see us now shape up. So, do you believe that we're in a bright spot as compared to the rest of our peers, especially the emerging market peers, given the fact that, at least on the macro front, not as badly off? You had the corporate earnings as well, that was rather encouraging, and now we've got crude oil prices as well in our favor.
Yeah, I think from a growth perspective, definitely India stands out quite well. And many of the global companies that I'm associated with, and I'm on the boards of a few of them, really everybody is looking towards India for growth. So whether it's for consumers, whether it's for office space, whether it's for outsourcing, R&D, software, technology, I think India is where everybody is looking to increase their footprint. So definitely from a growth perspective, I think India is definitely looking very good. Relatively, of course, absolutely, the numbers are in the 6 to 6.5% range, which is slower than what it's been in the past. But from the rest of the world's perspective, India has really benefited from all the shutdowns and the supply chain issues arising from China. Now, of course, inflation, interest rates are a concern globally. I don't see inflation, in fact, in India doesn't seem quite as bad as what I see in the US. Um, and in terms of the recession, I don't see a huge amount of slowdown coming um, in India. And frankly, I don't see a huge slowdown in the US either.
So if you don't expect a big slowdown in US and if India is doing well, is it time to start looking at the other end of the spectrum, fintech, platform companies, IT companies, metals, global cyclicals?
Um, to some of them, yes. So, for instance, as I said, the next 3 to 6 months, I don't see a huge change in the macro environment from where it's today. There could be some slowdown in the US from where we are now, and then peaking of interest rate cycle across US, perhaps even India. So at that point, I think is the time to when you really start seeing some sectors looking good. Of course, technology is a sector that has done really badly globally this year, and India has also been affected. So I do think that valuations in this sector are beginning to look relatively better. So at some point, I would be looking to add to technology. In terms of fintech, anything consumer related in India, particularly in the financial services space, that space is going to continue to see growth. So I think that's a space where there will be new opportunities, and the current opportunities as well, if the valuations are looking good, is a space that is a long-term theme. In terms of global cyclicals, I think commodity prices are still a bit of an issue. Oil could, as we head into the winter months, We don't know how Russia is going to respond, and how they're going to handle all this oil embargo, etc. So I do think that oil prices, we may see volatility in commodity prices, and so some of the metals and other sectors might continue to see some kind of margin pressures.
Okay. Punita, if one has to look at also the other end of the spectrum, which is what is happening in China, every brokerage is now making a case that look, money will come back to China. And that, in a sense, is going to be an important turning point for India. The valuation difference, the proposition of a COVID normalization is so large that India may just be left out because of outperformance and because of valuations. Is there merit in thinking on those lines?
Yeah, I think so, because the valuation disparity is huge. Of course, it's still to be seen how China opens up, and whether it can really normalize. I doubt it will normalize to the levels pre-COVID, but definitely there will be some move back into Hong Kong, China. We're already seeing that happen. In fact, if you look last month, emerging market indices were up quite strongly in China, Hong Kong were up strongly, the markets. So I think there is a lot of money on the sidelines that is looking for attractively valued markets. And while India has been a big beneficiary, valuations haven't been looking that attractive recently. Also, if you look at estimate revisions, in the last 1 month, we've seen the estimate revisions upwards slowing down in India versus the past 3 months. Whereas in some of the other countries, we are seeing a slightly different trend where we're seeing earnings estimate revisions slightly more beginning to turn up versus what they've been in the last 3 months.
Okay, and there you can see on your screens Prime Minister Modi casting his vote in Ahmedabad right now. Remember, it's the Gujarat Assembly elections voting, which is currently taking place. The polling has begun for the second phase of elections in 93 seats. In fact, a total of 833 candidates from 61 political parties, including Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel, are contesting the polls in these assembly segments spread across Ahmedabad, Vadodara, Gandhinagar, and other districts. And that, of course, is the Prime Minister casting his vote. We're expecting Amit Shah as well to cast his vote in Ahmedabad itself.
Okay, yes, indeed. Do remember, he is on a visit to his native state and exercising his franchise at the school in Ranip in Ahmedabad as he is casting his vote. Do remember, you also had the Prime Minister earlier on Sunday meeting his mother at her residence in Gandhinagar, and we will have the Union Home Minister Amit Shah casting his vote later in Ahmedabad's Naranpura.
Right. Okay, let's get back to the markets then. And before I take it across to Punita, let me just revisit where the rates have settled in at. We're absolutely flat, 18,804, Manappuram, IDFC First, Hindalco, Tata Chemical, and Indiabulls Housing are your big winners. Punita, just getting back to the darling theme in the market right now, and that really seems to be around capacity, right? Everything from old economy, infrastructure, railways, defense names, they are the ones which are catching investor fancy right now. Wanted to understand, what are your thoughts on this?
No, I think infrastructure in particular is seeing a lot of demand. In fact, I've spoken to a few CEOs, and they're saying they're getting so many orders that they don't have the capacity or the talent to, in fact, meet the demands. Government orders have been very strong. And then, as I mentioned earlier, everybody globally has been looking to India as an alternative to China, and a lot of capacity from a lot of the global companies is also seeking to get set up in India. So I think the shortage is not on orders. The shortage obviously is on the other aspects such as talent and land and etc. But yes, I think this sector is definitely benefiting from growth, and this is going to have a ripple effect, obviously, into some of the other sectors like cement and over time steel and
Right. Punita, you know
the
what?
other.
We've got you. I mean, your audio is sounding okay, but your video is getting extremely jittery. We've got you on a bad line there. We'll try and reconnect.